Uncle Geronimo, you're my hero. I didn't remember saying yes to Bruce's plan, but I must have because the next day he pulled up in his car and whisked me off to begin my training. But Bruce, I have to go to work today, I protested. I need it at the Rodent's Gazette. Nonsense, Bruce shouted. He dragged me into a bike store. Before I knew it, he bought me an outfit made especially for racers. A cycling shirt, shorts, socks, and my special bicycling shoes that latched onto my bicycle pedals. Okay, let's get going, Bruce said. I want you to meet the team that will be by our side throughout the race. They are all great rodents, you'll see. Bruce stopped at the front of the Rodent Gazette. The entire staff was waiting for me. They all seemed to know I was going to be riding in the race across America, and they come out to show their support. My cousin Trap, my sister Thea, and my little nephew Benjamin were at the front of the crowd. Benjamin ran to hug me. Uncle Geronimo, Bruce told us you're going to America to race. You're my hero. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. I didn't know what to say, so I just hugged him close. What could I do? I couldn't disappoint my favorite nephew. It looked like I have to race whether I wanted it to or not. NMC, the team. Bruce took advantage of my movement and of my weakness to introduce me to the team. Hey there, said a tall tin mouse wearing a cowboy hat. I'm Tex, the team's general manager. We have organized a system to monitor you at every step of the race. Put on these mini microphones. They'll connect you to the camper that will follow you while racing. Tex showed Bruce a tiny microphone that was attached to a long wire extended from a small battery. This way, if you need a wire, we can get to you fast, Tex explained. The team MC, Shadi Tao, Mosi Macamos, Tiger, Buzz, Stacco, Anderson, V-Doc, we have Mousy Middleton and Betty Smart Mouse, Iron Mouse, and Tex Talkington. Thanks, but I won't need it, Bruce said. I have been training for months. Months? I gulped nervously. Tex turned to me. Sorry, Geronimo, but you have to carry an older version. We just gave out the last ultralight one. Oh, that's alright, I said. I wanted to show Bruce I could handle anything. Then I saw the battery Tex wanted me to wear. At least it weighed 75 pounds. Oh, what have I gotten myself into? But how will I be able to carry this and pedal all those miles? I stammered. Bruce slapped my shoulder. Don't worry, champ. It's all part of training. Training hadn't been begun and I was already exhausted. Tex smiled at me sympathetically. You'll be just fine, Geronimo. Inside the camper, we got all kinds of things to help you rest and recover. When you're not cycling, plus our trainer V-Doc is the best. V-Doc thoughtfully. Looks like I got my work cut out for me. I can see you got very small muscles. Don't worry, though. I'll fix you up in no time. Do you know what my motto is? What doesn't bend gets broken. I began to sweat. Before I could respond, Bruce dragged me away to show my bike. Come on, Geronimo. Don't you want to meet your new best friend? He said. The two of you are going to be spending a lot of time together. Everything you need for a bicycle racing. Helmet, water bottle, a rain jacket, special bicycle shoes, spare inner tube, energy food bars, tools to remove tires, a little money, a cell phone, Allen wrenches. Good for you, champ. Bruce showed me to my bike. It was a lot fancier than the one I used to picnicking in the park. It was sleek and silver. Come on, champ, said Bruce. Let's take her for a spin. To relax powers. That didn't sound so bad. I climbed on my new bike, and just sitting on it made me feel like a professional cyclist. Oh, I almost forgot to mention something. Bruce said these are few 20% inclines on this course. 20%? No sweat, I replied enthusiastically. That sounded like nothing. Bruce slapped my back so hard, he almost knocked me over. Good for you, champ. Oh my god. Dude, that's actually very tall. I can't do that. We pedaled for hours. After 5 miles, I was out of breath. After 15 miles, I had cramps in my pulse. After 25 miles, my mouth was so dry I had a hard time breathing. After 50 miles, my back was so sore I wanted to scream. After 75 miles, I wanted to cry. After 100 miles, I fell off my bike. Finally, we stopped for a break. Bruce, I panted. What does a 20% incline mean? Bruce laughed. Well, in bicycle racing, there are 3 types of inclines. The easy ones, the hard ones, and the very hard ones. A 20% incline is one of the hardest. I thought you knew that, Geronimo. By the time we arrived home, I was totally exhausted. Holy cheese, I couldn't wait to get off my bike. I hopped off, but the straps held on to my paws and on to the pedals. I didn't release. I toppled over and landed on my portrait. Bruce looked down at me. You know what, champ? He said confidently. Maybe I'll go for another little ride. If I can't sleep, if I don't go for at least for 150 miles. He waved cheerfully and pedaled up. Bruce Saina is a good friend, but I have never been so glad to see him go. Dude. What if we move, Mr. X? The 2 weeks of training were more painful than anything I could have ever imagined. But whenever I thought of giving up, I just remember the look in Benjamin's eyes when he called me his hero. I kept it at it. Finally, the big day came. The entire NMC team was ready. We met at the New York City's airport with our enormous suitcases. We had to take apart our bikes and put them in special cases so they could fit on a plane. We boarded the plane to find every seat was taken. The team was spread all over the place. That didn't make Bruce happy at all. He was determined to sit next to me so we can talk strategy. I'll ask somebody to switch seats with me, he offered. Oh, it's okay, Bruce, I said. I thought about the book I packed in my carry-on bag. I've been busy cycling. It felt like ages since I called up with a good story. Listen, champ. Listen, champ. This might be maybe our last chance to brainstorm before the race. Bruce said we got 16 hours and we are gonna need every minute. Bruce asked the mice on either side of both of our seats to switch with one of us. But no one would do it. So Bruce pulled out a scrap paper and started to figure all kinds of ways to move rodents around so we could sit together. Look, Geronimo, if you move Mr. X here, then we can switch Mrs. Y here, and Suite 21 will be empty. Then we can ask Mrs. Z to change with Mrs. H, then Mrs. Q, who will only sit in the window seat. Can you believe the nerve on that road? Very soon, everyone on board was complaining about Bruce. The flight attendant had to tell him to take his seat and quiet down. I breathed a sigh of relief and pulled out the final Harry Potter book. At last, some peace and quiet. Then after a few hours, Bruce appeared by my side. Psst, she said. He hissed. Don't forget to keep your paws loose. Try these exercises. These are the exercises. Massage your head. Place your fingers on your eyelids and press gently. Turn your neck from left to right, then from right to left. Then shoulders. Raise your shoulders up and down, way up to your ears. Bend your torso all the way to your knees. And bend your arms behind one head and push it down with the other. Raise your feet to your toes and then your heels. Pull each knee toward you and then twist your waist to left to the right. Hope Hospital. A few hours later, I was starting to feel a little lonely. I peered around to look for my teammates. Bruce caught my eye and came over to talk to me. Geronimo, I got something to tell you, he began. I never seen my cheerful friend look so serious. What is it, Bruce? I asked. You know, you can tell me anything. Well, I've been volunteering for a while at Hope Hospital, he said. I was surprised. I had no idea he had been volunteering, but it made sense. Bruce Hyena likes to talk big and he has a big heart to match. I work with the wing where children with leukemia are hospitalized. Bruce went on. Leukemia is a disease that attacks blood cells and prevents them from fighting infections. So I was thinking, why don't we dedicate this race to the mouseless at Race Hospital? I have lined up a few sponsors who will help us raise money. That way we can really help the little heroes who fight leukemia every day. We can do it, can't we, Geronimo? I was truly moved. I hugged my friend warmly. Bruce, it's a great idea. We can definitely do it. I can't sleep. Another hour went by. The lights were dim. I looked around me. Everybody was sleeping. Even Bruce was snoring. I knew I needed to rest a little before we landed. After all, I had quite an adventure in front of me. So I closed off my eyes and tried to doze off, but no luck. I called the flight attendant and asked for a cup of hot cheddar, thinking that would help to relax me, but no luck. At the end of the flight, I looked frazzled, and Bruce looked like he just returned from a trip to the restful rodent spa. It wasn't fair. Tried crossing my legs, no luck. I tried putting down my head on the tree. I tried crossing my legs, no luck. I tried putting my head down in the tray in front of me, no luck. I tried hugging my knees and resting on my head on them, no luck. I tried throwing my legs over on the aisle armrest. No luck. I tried curling up into a football. No luck. I tried pushing my knees on the seat in the front of me. No luck, no luck, no luck. Welcome to San Diego. We landed in San Diego, California. I was totally zoinked. Not just because I couldn't sleep. The time difference really made me feel terrible. You see, it was 9 a.m. in San Diego, but at New Mo City, it was midnight. As soon as we got to the hotel, Bus, the mechanic, immediately started putting our bicycles together. While Bus was busy, I figured I'd take a little rat nap in my room. So this is the history of California, San Diego. California is the third largest state in the United States, after Alaska and Texas. It is also one of the most populous. One of its largest cities is San Diego, which is located at the southern tip of the state on the Pacific coast, as you guys can see over here, the pink mark. The Spanish explorer Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo first sailed into San Diego in Bay in 1542, hoping to find the wealthy cities known as Cibola. Today, if you walk along the waterfront, the Embarcadero, you will reach the Maritime Museum, which features one of the finest collections of historic ships in the world. One of the ships there was the Star of India, 1863. It's the oldest working ship. In the heart of San Diego, at Balboa Park, it is the largest urban cultural park in the United States. Founded in 1868, it is home to major museums, botanical gardens, performing arts centers, and the San Diego Zoo, which holds more than 4,000 animals. Geronimo, where do you think you're going? Bruce bellowed. He blocked my path. Well, I had trouble sleeping on the plane, so I thought I stammered. You thought you started the day with some solid training, isn't that right? Good for you, Geronimo. I see the fire of enthusiasm in your eyes. I like it. Let's go for a nice jog. Bruce is a mouse who knows what he wants, and I could see myself I wouldn't change in his mind. So I dragged myself to my room to change into my tracksuit. 5 minutes later, we were running along the waterfront. Despite my exhaustion, being outdoors perked me up. Ah, California. The brilliant blue ocean seemed to stretch on forever. The seaside was gorgeous, with white sand that. Oh, that looks cool. Damn. Really nice portrait though. Sparkled in the warm sun. The beach was dotted with sunbathers and surfers. It felt good to move my arms and legs again after being so cramped on that long flight. Bruce was right. Exercise was just what I needed. I bolted ahead, spurred on by the marvelous sight. After a few minutes, I heard Bruce saying, Nemo, wa, out, for, I turned and shouted back, what did you BAM! I ran smack into a pole. Maybe jogging wasn't the best cure for jet lag after all. Oops. You must be the NMC crew. Around mid-morning, the entire NMC team gathered in our hotel lobby. We were on our way to cruise the America Camping Company to pick up the camper the crew would use during the entire race. Cruise America's owner, Mickey, was waiting for us at the door. You must be the NMC crew. I got your camper right here. It is the last one left on the lot. You can sign the lease while I get the keys. Wow, that was rhyming. So Bruce signed the lease and Mickey took us to our camper. It was enormous, but it was dirty and dilapidated. This is Mickey. Looks nice. Team NMC's camper. Vents to control inside temperature. Look at that, nice vent. There's the spare tire, there's a water pump, there's the trunks, and here's the driver cabin. And inside we have a bed, a table, sofa beds, kitchen, refrigerator, shower, okay, bathroom, night table, another bed, and another night table. Looks cool. The rest of the team was as grossed out as I was. But Shorty Tower just said, okay gang, with a little elbow grease, we can make this town spick and span. So roll up your sleeves and get your tails in gear. We went to work. We washed the floor, We scrubbed the counters and the walls. We shook, beat, and flopped the mattresses, pillows, and anything else we could shake, beat, and flop. After everything was spotless, we aired out the entire place. Finally, we went to pick up some cheese for the trip. I was starving. By the end of the day, I was wiped out, but the camper was ready to tackle the race across America. And after a good night's sleep, I'll be ready too. On your mark, get set, go! The big day had finally come. I woke up nervous but excited. At the starting line, the atmosphere was electrifying. Everyone was bustling about checking their bikes, fitting their helmets, and making sure their water bottles were filled. Some of the contestants were looking over the route on big maps. Bruce, Buzz, and I were busy tuning up our bikes so they were in tip top condition. We infiltrated the tires, greased the chains, tightened the screws on our handlebars, and adjusted the seats so they were just right. After our bikes were ready, V-Dog called us over. Hey bros, Geronimo, I'm gonna give you guys a nice relaxing massage. Geronimo, you're first. I scurried into the trailer. I love massages, but this turned out to be the least relaxing massage of my life. V-Dog twisted and turned me inside out. Ouch. Or at least that's what it felt like. By the time he was done, I could feel every muscle in my tail and not in a good way. Ooh. Ouch. Just as V-Dog started in on Bruce, he heard the loudspeaker calling us to our places. No massage for Bruce, the lucky mouse. But I was too excited to care. It was time. We put on our helmets. We decided I would start off the race. I was relieved because the first leg was the least difficult. I joined the other cyclists at the starting line. Bruce saw me on the back. So, look at that. That's the picture. So, as you guys can see, there are a lot of cyclists in this race. You can see the banner. You can see the sponsors: Sportsmouse Sunscreen, ICM Computers, Z, I don't know what that is, and Chinese Smile Toothpaste, and some other sponsors too on the other side. You can see some cheese too, so they must be a brand sponsor too. All these colorful flags looks very colorful. And here's the Rat TV, which is broadcasting the show, and then there is Geronimo and Bruce. And the other cyclists are lined up and ready for the race. The announcer is about to say ready, set, go. It looks so professional and looks so cool. Hard, it was a miracle that I didn't fall over. Ready, champ? Remember, pedal fast and smooth. Make sure you concentrate and all above, keep a steady rhythm. I nodded. I couldn't believe the race was finally beginning. I closed my eyes for a moment and then thought about my dear nephew Benjamin and how he said I was his hero. I smiled and opened my eyes again. I was ready. The voice on the loudspeaker told us to mount our bikes. Ready? On your mark. Set. Go! And as you can see, all of the cyclists are right here. Oh my god. So sorry, Geronimo. Welcome to Arizona. I had just begun pedaling when the rest of the contestants passed me in a flash. Rodents from all over the world had come to compete in this race. It was truly an international event. As we passed one another, we smiled and wished each other good luck. The open road stretched in front of me. The wind whistled through my fur. What an adventure for the next several days. I'll be sharing the same destiny as rodents from countries all over the world. Our hearts would beat the same rhythm of strain and pain. We would all share in the same excitement. It was thrilling. As we started out, I felt good. Whatever VDoc had done to my muscles had really helped. Plus, I had spent the last few weeks training with Bruce and the rest of our team. I was in better shape than I had ever been. And last but not the least, I ate a hearty breakfast of oatmeal right before the race began. Before exercising, it's good to eat a meal rich in carbohydrates. The landscape around me was breathtaking. I was immediately settled into a steady pace. I smiled. I could hardly believe that I was really here, competing in the race across America. After a few hours, we turned on to Route 66, the famous highway in the United States. I had cycled almost 130 miles in a little while. Bruce would switch with me. As the sun started to sink, my paws began to ache. It was beginning to get dark, and I realized we have entered the Arizona desert. There was a full, beautiful moon, and nothing but sand for miles around. Route 66. Route 66 is the most famous highway in the United States. It was established in 1926 and is named the Mother Road. It begins at Chicago and ends in Los Angeles. Route 66 crosses 8 states and runs more than 2,000 miles. Jack Kerouac wrote about it in his famous book, On the Road. The highway was also immortalized in the song by Bobby Troop. Get your kicks on Route 66. As you can see, here's the Arizona desert. It looks so beautiful. Wow. I was getting hungry, so I radioed Tex and Bass. They were following me in the team car. They pulled alongside me and handed me a cheddar sandwich. Cheese I never tasted so delicious. Biking 100 miles can really make a mouse hungry. Hey Geronimo, is everything okay? Asked Tex. You look tired. Just a bit, I replied. I can ride a little farther. Do you need any more water? Tex asked. A strong hot wind was blowing. I was 105 degrees and it was a night time. It was hot, but I didn't feel thirsty. No, I'm okay, I told Tex. But a few minutes later, I knew I was in trouble. I had to follow VDoc's instructions. He told me to be sure to drink plenty of fluids. I suddenly had a terrible hot flash. My lips were parched, I was completely dehydrated, and I had a fever. Cheese slices. I really felt sick. I must not have enough water to drink. The team car suddenly appeared alongside me. Tex and Buzz must have noticed that I had slowed down. Take heart, Geronimo, Buzz said. Bruce will relieve you. That's when I realized the camper was on my other side. Bruce scampered out. He looked all fired up and ready to go. Cheer up, she said. It's my turn now. He reached out to give me a slap on the back, and then everything went black. I had fainted. When I came to, the first thing I saw was V-Dog. He was bending over me. Geronimo, did you drink enough of water? He asked. No, don't tell me I don't. Want to know you didn't, did you? I was mortified. I really didn't know what to say. I felt like a mouseless who had been caught by his paw in a cheese jar. And now I was scolded, but I hadn't done it on purpose. I had just forgotten. V-Dog looked at me sternly. Geronimo, because of your mistake, Bruce had been pedaling for the last 8 hours. I was shocked. Jumping gerbil babies. I've been out for 8 hours? V-Dog nodded. Bruce knew you weren't feeling well, so he asked you not to be relieved. He told me not to wake you. I felt terrible. I couldn't believe I let my friend down like that. I had to do something. I needed to get well quickly so I can help Bruce. Please help me to get better, V-Doc. I'll do whatever it takes. V-Doc smiled. Good for you, Geronimo. I knew you were tough. I'll give you a nice rub down and you'll feel a lot better. This is Bruce after 2 hours. This is Bruce after 4 hours. This is Bruce after 8 hours. Oh no. My turn. V-Doc was right. As soon as she finished my massage, I felt ready for anything. I strapped on my gear and dashed to the front of the camper. Iron Mouse was behind the wheel. Signaled the mice in the car to pull over. I need to switch with my friend, I told her. Done, Geronimo, Iron Mouse said with a grin. I put on my bike helmet, and once the camper pulled over at the curb, I jumped out. Bruce had stopped a few feet ahead of me. He was taking a deep drink from his water bottle. He turned and gave me a tight smile. Hey, champ, he said slowly. I'm glad you're feeling better. I hugged him. Thank you for looking out for me, Bruce. You're my true friend. It has been my turn now, so slap me 5 if you need to rest. Bruce grinned and slapped me 5. I knew he must have been exhausted because it didn't hurt a bit. I winked at him and then jumped on my bike and sped away. I felt so much better. I pedaled mile after mile and I remembered to drink a lot of water. I was unstoppable. Soon as we arrived at the Grand Canyon, Bruce was supposed to revive me there. But I was determined to let him rest as long as possible. I kept going, I told Tex. Let Bruce rest a little longer. The road was filled with 20% inclines, but the view was spectacular. I should have been sweating my tail off, but the fantastic landscape made my aches disappear. The walls of the canyons were very, very steep. Tex radioed and told me that the canyons were much as a mile deep. The ridges were carved by thousands of years of ice, rain, and wind. I couldn't believe how lucky I was to be seeing this incredible place with my own eyes. Of course, it was very hard work, but the breathtaking panorama made it all worthwhile. I really owed it all to my best friend Bruce Aina. If he hadn't trained me like a drill sergeant, I would have never had the strength to take on those steep hills. The Grand Canyon is the World Heritage Site in the state of Arizona. It is considered one of the wonders of the world. The canyon is a huge crack in a rock that averages 4,000 feet deep for its entire 277 miles. It was 6,000 feet deep, as it is the deepest point and 15 miles wide at the wildest point. The canyon was formed by the part of the Colorado River over the past 5 or 6 million years. Over time, the canyon walls grew wider and wider from summer thunderstorms and winter snowballs. The Colorado River cuts through the Grand Canyon, begins in Rocky Mountain National Park, and flows approximately 1,450 miles to the Gulf of California in Mexico. Its waters change color from red to blue to green depending on the weather conditions and the different sediments in the riverbed. The Grand Canyon looks beautiful when it's drawn. As I zoomed along, I noticed a camper by the side of the road. It was the Swiss crew. My crew and I stopped to give them a paw. What happened? I asked. The Swiss team manager looked anxious. One of the camper's tires is flat. He replied, if we don't change it fast, we have to pull out of the race. I turned towards Bruce and the rest of the crew. Everyone looked exhausted, but I could tell they knew what they needed to be done. Their courage and determination were inspiring. All right, rodents, we got the teamwork to make the dream work, Bruce cried. Faster than you could squeak. Crumbling cheddar cheese crisps. We had the tire fixed, and the Swiss crew was ready to move. They thanked us profusely and sped off. Okay, champ, it's time to switch. You can't keep this rodent out of the rat race any longer, Bruce exclaimed. He gave me one of his famous slaps on the back, and I almost fell over. That's how I knew he was back up to full strength. Cheer up, cheeseheads, he told the rest of the team. I feel stronger than ever. I'll fire over the next miles. Let's go. And with that, he was back on his bike and racing away. As though all the cats on the Claw Islands were on his tail, he was more than a mile ahead of us before we caught up with him, and we were driving in the camper, just like the old cowboy movies. I settled down in the campus' tiny kitchen for a nice snack. As I munched down on a mozzarella ball, I looked out the window. We were in the Monument Valley. The red rocks were bathed by the settling sun. What a beautiful sight. I felt like I was in an old western. Buzz and I called Bruce on the radio. Howdy, partners, Bruce shouted. I guess he shared my love of old cowboy movies. It's very windy here. I can't go faster than 50 miles an hour, even when I'm going downhill. As we drove, Mossy and Taco, the two cameramen, had their cameras rolling, filming the spectacular scenery, and Bruce kept, would you look at that? That looks beautiful. As you can see, there is a camper over here, a SUV, and Bruce cycling in front of it. And this is the old Western Cowboy set. It looks cool. Monument Valley, Navajo, Arizona. Monument Valley Navajo Tribal Park is 91,696 acres, 143 square miles, and it's filled with many strange and unique sandstone formations that have been shaped through time. It includes buttes, mesas, canyons, and freestanding formations with enchanting names. Ear of the wind. If you listen carefully, you can hear the sound of the wind passing through the hole in this formation. Eye of the sun arc. At a particular time of the day, you can see the sun through the middle of the hole. It acts like a natural clock. The most famous formations are the unmistakable priestesses, which appear in many westerns. Some of the most famous westerns of all time were shot right in the Monument Valley. Stagecoach, My Darling Clementine, Fort Apache, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, Rio Bravo, The Searchers, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and How the West Was Won. Talking, even though he was still pedaling hard, he is still a mouse of steel. In fact, he started telling us jokes. Okay, listen to this one. There was a sports mouse just like me who went to his friend, a book mouse like Geronimo, and said, "Want to do a marathon with me?" His friend asks him, how does it work? So the sports mouse explained, "Well, we have to cover 26 miles." So the book mouse squeaked, "Fine, but you have to drive. I'm too tired." Ha ha ha. I roll my eyes, and what can you do? That's Bruce for you. From 120 degrees to 40 degrees. I lay down to sleep for a while. It was very important to rest while I could, so I was exhausted. I fell asleep as soon as my head hit the pillow. I woke up a few hours later, rested and refreshed. Colorado. In the 16th century, Spanish explorers named the area Colorado because it's red colored, and Colorado means red in Spanish. Colorado has 54 mountains peaks that are more than 14,000 feet high. The Colorado National Monument preserves 32 square miles of canyons and mesas sculpted from the years of erosion. A few miles west is a Miracle Rock, a huge sandstone outcropping perched on a narrow cliff. It may be the biggest wobbly rock in the world. It was time for me to get back on my bike. Just my luck. We were right at the beginning of the huge mountain range. We had crossed the Colorado border. I gotten used to the heat in the desert where it was 120 degrees Fahrenheit. But here in the mountains, the temperature dropped to the 40 degrees. Rat munching rattlesnakes. It made the work of the pedaling the bike twice as hard. I panted and I panted as I pushed one paw in the front of the other. Holy cheese, I wished it was still Bruce's turn. The steep road the Colorado mountains was more than 35 miles long. I thought it would never end. As I huffed and puffed along, the weather suddenly turned from sunny to cloudy. Brrr! Now it just got colder. Just then, I got a flat tire. Before I even had a chance to radio the crew, Buzz hopped out of the car and scampered over me. Before you could squeak Chevy cheese chunks, he fixed my tire. How to change a flat tire on a bicycle. Number 1. Remove the wheel from the bike. Number 2. Using an Allen wrench, remove the outer tire, then remove the inner tube and discard or patch it. Take 3. Take a new inner tube or use your old patch tube and after filling it with a little air from the bike pump, place it inside the rubber tire. Insert the rim of the rubber tire back into the wheel. Use the bike pump to fill the tire with air. Then place the wheel back onto the frame of the bike. Laughter is the best medicine. After a while, we arrived in Durango, a beautiful town in the mountains. The landscape was dotted with pine trees and junipers. As I pedaled through the city, a real old-fashioned steam engine train puffed by, tooting its whistle. I was starting to get tired, so Bruce and I switched again. Now we were heading towards Kansas. It was hard to believe, but we were almost halfway through the race. The farther we biked, the more excited Bruce and I became. Even though we were both worn out, the crew was weary too, and they were feeling a bit down. So I decided to try to lift everyone's spirit by the same way Bruce had, which was by telling jokes. I had plenty of time to think some up while I was racing along my bike. My grandfather, William Shortpaws, was a big believer in the power of laughter. When my sister When my sister Thea and I were little, he always used to tell us, "Remember, mouselets, if you feel down, the best medicine is laughter." Soon we were all laughing our tails off. The joke corner. What is the hardest thing to learn about learning a bike? The pavement. Why are you riding with the door on your handlebars? Asked one mouse. I can't ring because the bell's broken, so I knock, the second mouse replied. What are the most developed muscles on the bicyclist? The biceps. What does a bicycle call its dad? A pubcycle. Why did the mouselet take his bike to bed with him? Because he didn't want to walk in his sleep. Why can't elephants ride a bike? Because they don't have fingers to ring the bell. Two mice are sitting in their yard one day. I really had it with my dog, squeaked the first mouse. He'll chase anyone on a bike. What a drag, said the second mouse. So what are you going to do about it? The first mouse shrugged and take away his bike. Why can't a bicycle stand up by itself? Because it's too tired. Ha! Bruce heard the jokes through his headset and he was laughing so hard tears rolled down his snout. Even Tiger, who was driving the camper, was doubled over with laughter. All the chuckles and chortles made the next leg of the trip speed by. Soon we were in the Dodge City, the heart of the Old West. Bruce had been riding his bike for several hours now, so it was my turn. Dodge City. Dodge City, Kansas was one of the most well known cities in the Old West. Founded in 1872, Dodge City was a major trading center for travelers and buffalo hunters. Today, Dodge City has been faithfully reconstructed to look like it did long ago. Uphill struggles. Over the course of the race, I really started to enjoy riding at night. I spent the time plotting out my next few bestsellers. The gorgeous scenery really inspired a lot of great ideas. I was so busy brainstorming, I hardly noticed how hard I was working. Sometimes I'd be so busy dreaming of books that I forget I wasn't really alone. Every once in a while, the mic connected to the camper would crackle. Hey, Cheesehead, how is it going? Bruce's hearty voice boomed one evening. Then Bruce grew serious. Know what I was thinking, Geronimo? There have been so many enormous hills in this race that made me think of all of the uphill struggles sick mouseless have to face day after day. When you compare our struggles in this race to the ones the young mice at Hope Hospital are facing, it makes our hard work seem like nothing. If the Smouslings can do it day after day, we can too, right, champ? Right, Bruce, I responded. I smiled, even though he couldn't see me. That is why I liked Bruce Aena so much. He was a great motivator. Pedal, pedal, pedal. After a long night of pedaling, Bruce and I stood by the side of the road, getting ready to switch. Tex scampered up to us. Hey, you road rats. I was just on the radio with the organizers. There's only one team ahead of us, and they're just 60 miles ahead. Do you know what that means? Bruce said we can win. He shouted, Geronimo, we can do it. We got to do it all for those mouselings at the hospital. There was no time to lose. Bruce leaped on his bike and raced away. Bruce and I became two mean biking machines, switching every 2 hours. The last few states flew by. When we reached St. Louis, Missouri, we saw an authentic riverboat docked on the Mississippi, right in the famous High Steel Arc. Then we arrived at the Indianapolis, where the Indy 500 takes place. Next, we pedaled to the hard toward Ohio, concentrating on the rhythm we needed to overtake the races ahead of us. Pedal, pedal, pedal. Distance was separating us from the first place team was getting shorter and shorter. Soon we were only the few miles away from Annapolis, Maryland, where the finish line was waiting. But just when I saw the sign that said Annapolis 20 miles, something bad happened. Crusty kitty litter. It was bad. No, wait a minute. The word bad doesn't do justice to how terrible it was. It was awful, ghastly, and horrific and dreadful. One even might say it was disastrous. It happened like this. I was pulling along with Tex and Bus behind me in the team car. At this point, we've been pushing ourselves non-stop for more than 24 hours. That's how Tex and Bus turned on the wrong road without me noticing it. No big deal, right? Well, that's the race rules say each team car has to escort its cyclist to the finish line in Annapolis, or else the team is disqualified. A breathless finish. When I realized the car wasn't behind me anymore, I almost fainted. Is it a good thing my shoe clips held me onto the bike? I turned the bicycle around as quickly as I could. Then I began pedaling harder than I had ever before. I turned the bicycle around as quickly as I could. Then I began pedaling harder than I had ever before. I didn't use the brakes once. I was like the wind. I passed my crew in the camper. I radioed them to tell them what happened, and they stopped to cheer me on. Bruce was standing outside the camper. He was cheering, Go Geronimo, you can do it. Finally, I saw a dot far away from the horizon. It was coming toward me. It was our team car. Go Geronimo, go, Tex shouted. Faster than you can squeak. Flying cheese sticks dipped in fondue. I turned around and started sprinting in the opposite direction. We were back on track and heading towards the finishing line. I had never pedaled faster in my life. My mouth was dry, my paws were aching, and sweat was dripping down my fur right into my eyes. But there was it, the finish line. And there, just a few yards away from it, I was the cyclist from the team ahead of us. I was so close, I knew I could catch up with him. This was the final stretch. There were all the fans. There was my crew about to cross the finish line. At that moment, I tried to accelerate, but my front tire hit a rock, and suddenly I was flying. Ouch! Friends together, mice forever. Here's what happened next. Because of the rock, I flipped through the air and landed on top of my opponent's head. Then I tumbled onto the finish line. That flying leap onto the finish line helped me win first. We had won. Bruce and the entire team ran to hug me. They were so thrilled. It ended up being more of a tackle than a hug. Soon the whole team was piled on top of me, but I didn't care. Yeah, shrieked Tex. We did it. Bruce was hugging me so hard I thought he was going to crush my ribs. Cheese said, when I told you the trick to winning was arrive second before the rodent in the first place, I never thought you would take me literally. You gave me another tail-crunching embrace. You really are a champ now. We hugged each other. Then I embraced all the members of our crews one by one. This victory was for everybody, not just for Bruce and me. We never could have done it without our team. At the award ceremony, we called the whole crew onto the stand with us to receive the trophy. Shorty Tao, Betty, Mosita, Tex, V-Dog, Iron Mouse, Tiger, Taco, Mousy, and Buzz. Bruce winked at me. You know, Geronimo, it took more than muscles to win this race. It took heart, and we got lots on this team. I grinned at him. Then when we joined hands with our teammates and shouted, "All New Mouse City motto: Friends together, mice to forever." Hey, Chi said, "Are you sleeping?" That night, we had a big dinner to celebrate our victory. The next morning, we all boarded the plane for the flight back to New Mouse City. I couldn't wait to get home and tell Benjamin, Thea, and Trap about our adventure. Psst, psst. Hey, Chi said, Bruce whispered. Slap me a five if you're sleeping. I rolled my eyes. Bruce, how can I slap you a five if I'm really sleeping? Good for you, chap. I always know you were a brainy mouse. I smiled at him and then leaned my snout against my seat and tried falling asleep. I closed my eyes. In a few hours, I'll be home in my nice cozy mouse hole. Psst, psst. Hey, Chi said, are you sleeping? This time I couldn't take it. No, I'm not sleeping and you won't let me. Uh-oh. I woken up the whole plane and they were angrier than a mouse who cheese corn moldy. Shh! Who taught you manners? A rabbit, tomcat, be quiet. I was so embarrassed. I wanted to crawl under my seat. Bruce just ignored everybody and leaned in closer. Well, you're not sleeping. I was thinking of something. What do you say about organizing another fun adventure with me? I have a bunch of great ideas. How about a mountain bike trip to Patagonia? Or a trek through the Valley of Dinosaurs? Or could I do a nice little run up to the North Pole? Huh? What do you think? I had a laugh, just thinking all about those trips, making me tired. Good night. The real heroes. When our plane landed in New Mouse City, my entire family was waiting for me at the airport. In fact, half of the New Mouse City had turned out to welcome us. I was so happy to be home. Benjamin jumped to hug me. Uncle G, I knew you could do it. I love you so much. I kissed the tips of his whiskers and gave him a tight squeeze. My sister gave me a big proud. I'm so proud of you, Jerry Berry, she whispered. Even my prankster cousin Trap looked happy to see me. I could tell he was busy trying to think of jokes to make at my expense of my course. Of course, so before he could squeak, I gave him a Bruce-style slap on the back. That surprised him into silence. I wanted to go straight home, but first, Bruce insisted we go to the Hope Hospital first, and I was glad he did, because all the sick mouselings whom we had dedicated our victory were waiting for us. They welcomed us like we were real heroes, but the fact was they were the real heroes. That's why Bruce and I decided to give our little friends our trophy. Those little mouselets were the ones showed real courage, the courage to face life. Even though they were sick, these young mice found the strength to keep going. You look at that. It all looks so good. It's a beautiful picture, man. All of the mouselets standing there with Geronimo and Bruce. It's so nice. Looks so good. They never let their suffering bring them down. For these young mice, every day was a new day, They never let their suffering bring them down. For these young mice, every day was a new day, rich with possibilities. Bruce presented the hospital administrator with a check for all of the money we raised. I could see tears shining in her eyes. She looked so happy. Looking at the smiles on those mouselet snouts made me feel great. The race across America had been an enormous challenge for me, but it was worth it. Bruce and I had an amazing adventure, and we were able to help some very special little mouselets. Given the chance, I knew I would do it again in a heartbeat. And that's the end of the story. And here's a fun adventure from Geronimo's sister Thea. And here are Geronimo's other books. And this is the Rodent Gazette. And here's an about the author. And here is the Mouse Island. And that's the end of the book. I'll see you guys in the next book. Bye.